The phone call came at 2 a.m. Chidi was still in his work clothes, sitting on the edge of his bed in a small flat in Birmingham, too tired to change, too wired to sleep. He had just finished a double shift at the warehouse. His back ached, his feet ached, even his eyes ached. But when his phone rang and he saw it was Ngozi, he picked up before the second ring. She was crying, not the soft crying she sometimes did when she missed him. This was different. This was the kind of crying that lives deep in the chest and only comes out when something has finally broken past the point of holding. Chidi sat up immediately. What happened? What is wrong? She could not speak at first. Only the sound of her breathing, jagged and wet, filled the line between them. Then she said it. Mama Ada is forcing me to sign the house papers. She says if I don't, she will make sure you never come back to me. Chidi felt his chest tighten. He pressed the phone harder against his ear. What papers? What house? But the line had already gone dead. He called back 7 times. No answer. That night, Chidi did not sleep at all. He had been in Birmingham for 6 years. 6 years of double shifts, of cold mornings and colder evenings, of eating the same cheap food every week so that he could send the maximum amount home. Every month, without fail, money left his account and traveled across the ocean to the woman he had married before he left. He had built their house with that money, brick by brick, payment by payment, from 5,000 miles away. He had never missed a single month, not when he was sick, not when the factory laid off half the workers and he scrambled for shifts wherever he could find them, not once. And now someone was talking about signing house papers. Chidi stared at the ceiling of his small Birmingham flat until morning came. He tried to reach Ngozi every day for the next 2 weeks. Sometimes she picked up and spoke in short, careful sentences, as though someone was nearby listening. Sometimes she did not pick up at all. When she did speak, she told him everything was fine, that he had misunderstood, that she had been emotional that night and he should not worry. But Chidi knew his wife's voice. He knew the difference between her calm and her performance of calm. And what he heard on those calls was not peace. It was a woman speaking from inside a cage, choosing her words the way a person chooses steps on a bridge they are not sure will hold. He booked his flight home 3 months earlier than planned. He told no one. Nigeria greeted him the way it always did, with heat and noise and the smell of red dust in the air. Chidi took a taxi from the airport, his single bag on his lap, his heart doing something strange in his chest that he could not name. He had imagined this return so many times over 6 years. Ngozi at the door, the smell of her cooking reaching him before he even opened the gate, her laughter when she saw his face. The taxi turned onto his street, and Chidi saw the car. It was parked directly in front of his compound, a clean, expensive car that did not belong to anyone in the neighborhood. He stared at it as the taxi slowed. Something cold moved through him. He paid the driver and stepped out. The gate to his compound was open, his gate. The gate he had paid to have welded and painted 2 years ago, the one Ngozi always kept locked because she said the neighborhood had changed. It was standing wide open in the middle of the afternoon. Chidi walked through it. The compound was different. He stopped walking the moment he registered it. The potted plants Ngozi kept near the entrance were gone. The outdoor chairs he had bought the year before he left, the plastic ones she had painted white and arranged just so, were gone. In their place were different chairs, newer ones, darker. A man was sitting in one of them. He was perhaps 40, well-dressed, with the relaxed posture of someone who was comfortable in the space he occupied. He looked up when Chidi entered, and for a moment neither of them moved. Then the man stood. "Who are you?" Chidi asked. His voice came out quieter than he intended. The man looked at him with an expression that was not quite guilt and not quite confidence, something in between. Something that told Chidi this man had been expecting this moment, had perhaps been dreading it, but had also decided how he would handle it. "My name is Emeka," the man said, and then, after a pause that lasted too long, "I live here." The world did not tilt, it did not shake. It simply became very still and very loud at the same time, in the way that only happens when a truth arrives that a part of you already knew was coming. Chidi heard movement behind him and turned. Ngozi was standing in the doorway of his house, the house he had built from Birmingham, sending money every month for 3 years until it was finished, then continuing to send money to furnish it and maintain it and make it the kind of home he was proud of even from a distance. She was wearing a wrapper he did not recognize. Her hair was different. She looked at him the way a person looks at something they left behind that has unexpectedly returned and does not know where to put itself. "Chidi," she said. Her voice was careful. "You did not tell me you were coming." He looked at her for a long moment. "Why is there a man sitting in my compound, Ngozi?" She did not answer immediately. She stepped outside and pulled the door partly closed behind her, as though whatever was inside needed to be protected from the conversation that was about to happen. The story came out in pieces over the next hour, not all at once, not cleanly, in the broken way that shameful things are always told, with pauses where the important parts should be and words where the silences should be. Mama Ada had come to her 8 months ago, Ngozi's own mother. She had sat down in that same compound, in this same house that Chidi had built, and she had told her daughter something that she had been keeping for 12 years. Before Ngozi married Chidi, there had been someone else, a man named Emeka. They had been together for 2 years, quietly, the way young people love when they are not yet sure the world will cooperate with what they feel. Emeka had come to see Ngozi's family. He had come with the intention of doing things the right way. Mama Ada had sent him away. She had done it without telling Ngozi. She had told Emeka that her daughter had already chosen someone else, that his presence was an embarrassment, that he should not return, and then she had gone home and said nothing. Ngozi had waited for Emeka for weeks. When he stopped coming, she told herself he had changed his mind, that he had decided she was not worth the effort, that the love she thought they had was something she had imagined more fully than he had felt it. 6 months later, her mother introduced her to Chidi. He was a good man. He was kind and hard-working, and he wanted to go abroad and build something real. Ngozi married him. She told herself this was what moving forward looked like. She tried to mean it, but Emeka had not stopped. He had spent years looking. When he finally found out what Mama Ada had done, when a mutual relative told him the truth of what had happened that day, he had gone back, not to cause trouble. He said he just needed Ngozi to know that he had not left by choice. He found Ngozi alone in the house, 3 months into Chidi's absence that had already stretched to 6 years. Mama Ada was the one who invited him back. She admitted this with no shame. She had decided, somewhere in the years of watching her daughter wait alone in an empty house while her husband sent money from England, that she had made the wrong choice 12 years ago. That Emeka was the better man, that Ngozi deserved to be with someone who was present. And so she had engineered what she could not achieve the first time. Chidi listened to all of it without interrupting. He stood in his own compound, in front of his own house, with his bag still over his shoulder, and he listened. When Ngozi finished speaking, the only sound was the neighbor's radio playing somewhere over the fence. "So you let him in," Chidi said finally. Ngozi looked at the ground. "It was not that simple." "It never is," Chidi said. "But he is here, and I am standing here, asking you to tell me what you chose." She did not answer. That silence was the loudest thing Chidi had ever heard in his life. He did not shout, he did not throw anything, he did not say the things that were crowding the back of his throat. He picked up his bag from where he had set it down, and he walked back through his gate, the gate he had paid for, past the car he did not recognize, and out onto the street. He found a small guest house nearby, and sat in a plastic chair outside his room, watching the evening come in. He called his older brother, Tobena, who lived 2 streets away and had known nothing of any of this. Tobena arrived within 20 minutes. He sat across from Chidi and listened to everything. When Chidi finished, Tobena was quiet for a long time. Then he said something that Chidi did not expect. Emeka is not a stranger to this story. He has been circling for years. But brother, the real question is not about Emeka. It is about what Mama Ada did. To you, to Ngozi, to both of you. Chidi looked at him. "She separated them before you even entered the picture," Tobena continued. "And then when it suited her, she decided to reverse it, using your house, your compound, while you were sending money every month from England." The words settled in. The next morning, Chidi did something that surprised everyone, including himself. He went to see Mama Ada. She was sitting in her parlor when he arrived, and she did not look surprised to see him. She looked like a woman who had already decided how this conversation would go and had arranged herself accordingly. Chidi sat across from her. He did not waste time. "You sent Emeka away 12 years ago without telling your daughter," he said. "Then you brought him back into my house without telling me, and you asked my wife to sign papers on a house I built. Is that correct?" Mama Ada straightened slightly. "I did what I thought was best for my daughter." "You did what you thought gave you control," Chidi said. "Those are not the same thing." She opened her mouth. He continued before she could speak. "I am not here to fight you. I am here to tell you what is going to happen. The house is in my name. It will remain in my name. No papers were signed, and none will be. Whatever you were planning ends today." Mama Ada's face changed. Her composure shifted just enough for Chidi to see the calculation behind it. "My daughter is unhappy," she said finally. "She has been alone for 6 years. Your daughter called me crying at 2 a.m. because you were threatening her," Chidi said. "That is not a mother protecting her child. That is a woman protecting a decision she made and does not want to be held responsible for." The room went very quiet. He went back to Ngozi that afternoon. She was alone this time. Emeka's car was not outside. The compound felt different without it, smaller somehow, and more honest. Ngozi opened the gate when she heard his voice. She looked like she had not slept. Her eyes were red at the edges, and her hands, when she reached for the gate latch, were not completely steady. Chidi walked in, and they stood in the compound facing each other. He spoke first. "I need you to tell me what you want, not what your mother wants, not what is easiest, what you want." Ngozi looked at him for a long time. Then she sat down on one of the dark chairs that did not belong to either of them, and she pressed both hands flat on her knees, and she said nothing for almost a full minute. When she finally spoke, Her voice was low. "I never stopped him because I felt guilty," she said. "I felt like I owed him something for the years he lost. I thought my mother owed him, and I let that guilt make decisions that I should have made myself." She looked up. "I did not sleep with him, Chidi. I want you to know that. But I let him into the house. I let him sit in our compound, and I let my mother believe she was fixing something she had broken. And that was wrong. That was my wrong, not hers." Chidi sat down across from her. They talked for 3 hours, not easily, not without long silences and moments where one of them had to stop and look away before continuing. But they talked, the real talking, the kind that does not happen over phone calls across 5,000 miles, the kind that requires two people to be in the same room, breathing the same air, unable to hide behind static and distance. Chidi told her about Birmingham, the real Birmingham, not the version he had edited for her so she would not worry, the cold that got into his joints in winter, the shifts that went so long he sometimes forgot what day it was, the small flat where he ate alone every evening and fell asleep thinking about the house he was building for them, the house he had never seen finished in person. Ngozi told him about the 6 years, the real version of those too, the loneliness that had a specific texture to it, different from ordinary sadness, the way people in the neighborhood looked at her, a married woman living alone, and the things they said when they thought she could not hear, the way her mother's voice, even when it was wrong, had been the loudest presence in a house that was otherwise silent. Emeka came by that evening. Chidi opened the gate. The two men stood facing each other in the compound, not with anger exactly, with the specific, careful attention of two people who understand that the moment they are in is one that cannot be undone, only navigated. "I heard you were back," Emeka said. "I came back early," Chidi replied. A pause. "I am not here to fight for her," Emeka said. "I want you to know that. I came back because I needed her to know I did not leave by choice. That was all I wanted, for her to know the truth." Chidi looked at him for a moment. "She knows now," he said. "We all do." Another pause. Longer. Then Emeka nodded once. He looked toward the house, then back at Chidi. Then he walked back through the gate. He did not return after that. The weeks that followed were not easy. There is no version of this story where two people have the conversations they had and then simply return to the life they had before, unchanged. That is not how damage and repair work. The crack remains visible even after the mending. You learn to see the mended line, not as proof of what broke, but as proof of what held. Chidi did not go back to Birmingham immediately. He stayed for 6 weeks. He walked through the house he had built and had never properly lived in. He fixed the things that had broken while he was away. He sat in the compound in the evenings and watched the street. He ate Ngozi's cooking every night. Slowly, carefully, they found each other again, not perfectly, not without setbacks, but honestly. One evening, sitting outside as the sun went down, Ngozi said something quietly. "I should have called you the moment she first brought him here. I should have told you everything the same night she came to me with those papers. I was afraid of what it would do to us. But the silence did more damage than the truth would have." Chidi looked at the street for a moment. Then he said, "Call me next time, whatever it is, call me." She nodded. He reached across and covered her hand with his. When Chidi finally returned to Birmingham, he did not go alone in the same way he had gone before. Something had shifted between them, painfully and permanently. The distance was the same, the work was the same, but the understanding between them was different now. deeper and less innocent and more real. He still sent money every month, but now they spoke every evening properly, the way they should have spoken from the beginning, not the edited version, the real one. Mama Ada never apologized directly, but she stopped interfering, and sometimes that is as close to an apology as certain people know how to give. As for Emeka, he eventually moved to another city. He found someone. People said he seemed happy. Chidi heard this through Tobena and felt nothing complicated about it, only the quiet relief of a chapter that had ended without destroying everything. And the house stood, the same house Chidi had built brick by brick from 5,000 miles away. The house that had almost been taken from him without his knowledge still stood on his street, gate painted the same color he had chosen, compound the same size it had always been. Some things, when fought for with patience and honesty rather than noise and fury, hold. The lesson carried inside this story is not a simple one. It is not simply that absence breaks marriages, though it can. It is not simply that mothers should not interfere in their children's choices, though they should not. It is something more specific and more difficult. It is this: the people who love us sometimes cause us the deepest damage, not out of cruelty, but out of the particular blindness that comes from believing they know better. Mama Ada did not hate Chidi. She did not hate Emeka. She loved her daughter in the only way she knew, which was to decide for her, and that decision, made twice across 12 years, nearly destroyed 3 lives. The story also teaches that silence between people who love each other is never truly neutral. Everything left unspoken in a marriage becomes something else over time. It becomes distance. It becomes assumption. It becomes a space where other things can enter. Chidi and Ngozi survived not because they were perfect, but because when it mattered most, they chose honesty over comfort. They chose the difficult conversation over the easier silence. And sometimes that choice, made at the right moment, is the only thing that saves what is still worth saving.